Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Cyber Seniors webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about online shopping, how to do it safely and efficiently. But before we get started today, I'm happy to say that today's webinar is proudly sponsored by Breezeline. Breezeline is the 8th largest cable provider in the US. And Breezeline offers internet, TV, and voice services to residents and businesses in 12 states. So before we get started today, we're going to have a quick video from Breezeline.
Wi-Fi your way home, powered by Plume Home Pass. Technology that spreads ultra-fast Wi-Fi to every inch of your home. We make having a Wi-Fi supercharged home easy by including a SuperPod with your Wi-Fi gateway package. Learn more at breezeline.com.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about what Breezeline offers, you can visit them online after this session at www.breezeline.com.
All right, so today we're going to be doing a beginner's guide to online shopping. So we're going to talk about how to shop smarter and safer online to those who may not have done it before or haven't done it a ton. So what will we be covering? So first we're going to talk about just general best practices for online shopping, for staying safe. Within that, we're going to look at how to check if a site is trustworthy, how to check reviews on items or on shops themselves, how to price check items, and how to check a return policy, and then if you do decide to return an item, how to return an item you've bought online. So as I said, we're going to start off with just some best practices and tips. So one thing that I'll say, that when in doubt, always use familiar sites. So if you are shopping online, you can shop from trusted IRL retailers, so retailers you can actually go to in person that have online shops set up, things like Walmart or Best Buy, and stick to big names. So again, whether that's a store that exists in real life or just an online store, stick to the big names, Amazon and Etsy. And if you're using a marketplace type platform, same thing, go with the big names, and that's where Etsy comes in, or eBay. Now, that being said, obviously, sometimes you want to support smaller retailers or smaller sellers. Again, that's where things like Etsy and eBay come in handy. You can support individual marketplace sellers. But also there are a lot of other great websites, but I think if you are concerned or worried about not knowing what the safe sites are, it is best to stick to the big sites or the familiar sites. But these other tips that we're going to go through should give you the confidence to shop on smaller retailers or maybe ones that are more up and coming. So though I said, shop with the familiar sites, shop with, the big retailers, you should also be watching out for, on some of those big retail websites, what are called marketplace sellers. So sites like Best Buy and Walmart offer their platform up to marketplace sellers, which is basically, other smaller stores or individual vendors selling items. So be sure to pay close attention when you're buying on these sites. Usually it's a pretty small indicator. You can see it here kind of highlighted at the bottom of this item. This is a marketplace seller. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that they're untrustworthy or anything. It just means that your return policy or your refund policy might be slightly different. Now, probably the most important thing to look out for, whether you're shopping online or just visiting really any website, is always to check the site security. So when you go to a website, there should be kind of two things that indicate to you that a website is safe. The first one being that you'll see this little lock kind of icon just to the left of the URL on the URL/search bar. So you can see that and it should be locked up, and that is an indicator that this is a secure site. You can also see kind of just below where I put that line that it says https://. That is also a safety protocol on sites. So if that's there, that's also a good sign. But what you can do, you'll see the lock, and you can also click on the lock, and that gives you a lot more information about the website. So when we're looking at site security, this is a big indicator, but for our own protection and data security and data protection, it's also important that we know what else the site is up to. So if we click on the lock, it's great. It gives us more information about the website, the permissions the website uses, the cookies that the site is using, And if there's any sort of tracking going on, you can see that there's tracking prevention turned on in this particular site. And on certain websites, if they're big enough, and if they're businesses like this one, Etsy, you can also see some quick information about the company itself, where it's based, the revenue, stuff like that. So interesting to check that out, but also important to check that out. All right, now you're on a website, it's secure, and maybe you found an item that you want to buy, but you're still unsure about the business itself, and you just want to make sure it's safe. The next thing you want to do is research the seller. So there's a couple ways you can do this. A great way to do this is to check with the Better Business Bureau. And you should be able to search a business, whether it is, like I said, like an online business or one that has physical locations. You can check them here. And it's just a great way to check in on things, make sure they're registered with the Better Business Bureau and see that. So we'll take a look at how that works. So here we are on the Better Business Bureau website, and you can get to this website by just going to bbb.org. So basically, when you first get to this website, you have a search tool here. So you can basically just put in the name of the company you want to look up. So we'll go with eBay just to find an online store. And we can see that this is right away an accredited business by the Better Business Bureau, just means it's registered with them. Not all companies will be. So we can see things like customer reviews here, and we can read reviews, we can read complaints. We can also see the Better Business Bureau rating and accreditation. So here we have a bit of a discrepancy, obviously, between our customer reviews and their grading of this. That being said, a lot of people only go to Better Business Bureau to complain about businesses rather than to praise them. So you have to take the customer reviews on this site specifically with a grain of salt. And one thing you want to look at is maybe more the complaints, but really the Better Business Bureau rating and accreditation is a good thing to look at. Now, another option is just to Google it. This sometimes is a bit of an easier process. I'm not sure if all businesses, even that are trustworthy, might be registered with the Better Business Bureau, especially if you're buying from an international seller. So something to consider with that. The Better Business Bureau probably will only apply if you're in the US and potentially also Canada and Mexico. So something to be aware of. So if it's an international seller, which oftentimes it is, research the seller using Google. You can just literally say, is this site trustworthy, or is this a legitimate, seller? And then you should be able to find something on threads and conversations, but look for that. And again, we'll show how this might look or how you might go about doing that. So as I said, another great way to check on sites is just to Google them. So here we'll just Google is Etsy legit? And when we come in here, we'll just get a lot of articles. And sometimes you'll see articles about it just online, but also a great thing to kind of check on are sites like Quora and Reddit, because people can give you their own experiences. Now, at this point, you may have checked the website, it's legit, you're ready to start, buying stuff on it, but you're looking at individual product and you're now wondering about, is the product worth buying? It is always important when you're online to consult product reviews. Any online seller, worth its salt will have embedded customer reviews on their products, so you can see how people like them. And usually they're located near the bottom of the item page. So when you're on the item page where you're trying to buy it, if you scroll down, usually that's where you see all of the reviews. Of course, this might differ from site to site, but really important to check here. Sometimes there's images that go along with it. That being said, it also depends on a lot of other things. So if an item has a ton of reviews, this one, as you can see, has like 85,000 reviews, you want to take the negative comments when this has such a high 5-star rating with a grain of salt, because there's always going to be faulty products that go out. There may always be, this might be an issue with the seller rather than the product itself on this particular platform. So read through them, do your research. But that being said, it is also important to consult product reviews off of the website you might be buying it from, because as I said, that might mean that some of the reviews are actually an issue with the seller rather than the product. So we want to make sure we're consulting other places. But for now, let's look at how to check product reviews on a site. So for example, we will use Amazon.com. So when I come to the site, right, let me just search for an item. So we'll just search for a blender as our example. Now, when you're looking for, general items on a website, you'll see all of the items listed, and generally you should be able to see the reviews as well, or like a sense of the reviews. We can see this kind of star rating system. And usually you'll get a star rating and then you'll get a number, and that number is indicative of how many people have reviewed it. So this has 4 stars out of 52 ratings, whereas this has 4.5 stars out of 5,000 ratings. So right away, we're seeing some differences there. But say we click into this Vitamix option here. Now we'll be able to see more details about these ratings. So we can see that here. But if we scroll down to the bottom of this page, and you kind of have to scroll a while down on Amazon, but here are all of the reviews. And you can sort them by star rating, so 5, 4, 2, or just, when are the most recent. And you can see the actual rating and also what people are saying about the item. Now, as I had mentioned before, it is important to check product reviews not just on the selling platform that you are intending on buying on, but across selling platforms. And Google reviews is a great way to do this. So you can use Google to see reviews across the internet. So it'll tell you more about the product, and it'll be unencumbered by the complaints buyers might have about a seller. So we can see to the right here an example. This is an example of a Google review page, and you can see highlighted. The first one's a review from Walmart.com. The second one's a review from NutriBullet.com. And the third one is a review from from Bed Bath & Beyond. So looking across platforms lets us know, okay, this is a review on the product rather than the seller, and it also just gives us, a better idea of what the reviews are, and that they're not, again, biased in any way. So to check reviews on Google, all I really have to do is search the name of the item. So we're going to search for that Vitamix blender, and then we'll just put reviews after it. And usually when you do this, you should see like the item pop up over here on the right side of your screen. And one of the options here will be reviews, and you can literally click on reviews there, and then you should start to see them, and we can see that we're getting reviews from across the internet. So one from influencer.com, one from Vitamix here. If we go further down, webrestaurantstore.com. So we're seeing a lot of different reviews from across the internet, not just from one platform. Now you can look at reviews left by individuals who have bought the product, but there's also another great way to check reviews or to see what products are worth buying, and that's through product review websites. Websites like Wirecutter are a great place to check kind of the best reviews. So generally these are individuals, like journalists usually, who will actually buy the products and try them for a set period of time and do some sort of comparative testing of a bunch of similar products. So they can be great for finding what is the best blender of 2022 or something like that. So another great place to check out. And generally these are better if you're trying to spend a bit more money on a product, because they're going to go for the ones that are higher end. If you're looking at Amazon.com and just trying to find something cheap to fulfill a need, then looking just at the reviews on the website are probably best, because you're probably not going to find those products in a product review site like this. Now here we are on Wirecutter.com. So they just have this front page with new reviews they've done, but you can always use this search tool in the top right corner here. And again, let's go along with the blender example. We'll just search for blenders, and we're gonna see all of the kind of articles they've posted on the best blenders. So there's this one that was updated in November at the beginning of the month, and we can see from here their reviews. So they really write it out. They give you their top pick, which is that Vitamix blender we were looking at. They also give you their runner-up, And they usually also give you a few different examples and sometimes also a budget pick as well. So it's a great site to kind of narrow down your search if you're feeling overwhelmed by all of the options out there. Now, another thing you can do is price check items. Now, a lot of the time our internet browser does this in some ways kind of automatically for us, but we can do this manually, and it's advisable to do, if you're concerned about getting the best price. Usually prices won't differ too much from place to place, but important to check. So you can use Google Shopping to look for an item, and it will show you that item across the internet, so different sellers that are selling it, and you can basically see which place has the best price. So an important tool here, and we'll look at how that works. Now, for price checking, as I said, Google Shopping is a great way to do this. So again, let's look for that Vitamix blender since we've taken it through this journey so far. So here we are on the site, and we can just see there's a search bar up here. So I'm just going to search Vitamix blender, and then we'll just search that. And you should see the item across the internet, so we can see it in a bunch of different places. So it's a big sale right on the Best Buy website for right now. And we can just check where it's listed online on all sorts of different websites. Now, I called out Google Shopping as a great way to price check, but there are other platforms that allow you to do this across the internet. Other major search engines like Bing and Yahoo also have price checking tools, so you can check those out. But there are also other individual websites that do it too. Now, one of the last basic tips I have for shopping online is always check the return policy. All shops should have a detailed return policy available for you to view. If they do not, again, that's something to be maybe concerned about. They should let you know how you can return it, if it's returnable, by what date, and all of that. Sellers that are online, as well as sellers that have physical locations, might allow in-person return. So say if you're buying from Best Buy online, if you bought from them online, you may be able to go into a Best Buy to return the item rather than sending it back. So you usually have both options, but definitely always check that return policy. And again, we'll do an example right now of how to check for that and where to look, just so you can get an idea. All right, so here we are back on Amazon looking at this Vitamix blender again. And to see the return policy on here, it's actually just going to be just underneath where you add to cart or buy now, these buttons. And here it is. Here's the return policy. We can see it in a glimpse here, and we can see a bit more detail if we click into it. And you can click and read the full return policy, which lets you know exactly how they handle returns, what kind of timeline you have to make a return, and all of that. All right, now let's say I made an order and I want to return it. Here I am in my past orders. So here are the things I've bought. Basically, there's a couple ways to do this. If you have an account on a site, you should be able to go into your account and see your past orders and make a return from there. If you don't have an account on the website, generally the email that you receive with the confirmation of the purchase has a button that allows you to initiate a return. So check that out first. But again, if you're using something like Amazon and you have an account set up, it's in your account information. So here I'll go to my old orders. We can see this order I made, and we should see here there's an option, a button that says return or replace items. So we'll just click on return or replace. Generally, they might ask you why you want to return it, so we'll just pick a reason here, and you can make a comment as well. And then we can see all the options for return. So say I want a refund, blah, 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 blah. We'll just go with that. Continue. And then we can just confirm it, confirm the return, and begin that process. And basically they'll give us a shipping label. If that's the way we're returning it, we can print it, take it to the shipping office and send it out. If it's a place that we can return things in person, we usually can just take it in with a receipt. We don't really have to initiate this return process. Now, I want to end off with some additional safety tips for shopping online. We went through the basics of what you want to do when you're shopping, but here's some extra tips to keep you extra safe. So first thing, where possible, always use a credit card, not a debit card. This is because in case God forbid, your account information does get stolen or your account gets hacked or whatever might happen. These things do happen every once in a while, or you've entered it into a scam site by accident. Using your debit card will put the rest of your financial information at risk, gives you people access to your full bank account, right? Where using a credit card doesn't pose the same risk. And usually the protections on credit cards might be a bit better. So always use a credit card where you can, not a debit card. Now, if you're shopping online and you're using a website where you have to set up an account, something like Amazon.com, always create a strong password. This will keep any information you have stored on the account safe, including maybe saved cards that you've saved on your account and addresses. So 2 rules: make a long password, 8-character minimum, 10 or more is best. And in order to get a longer password, it's kind of advisable to write a sentence to create length, and you can complicate that by making it more complex, using lower and uppercase letters, using numbers and special characters, and using those throughout the password, not just at the beginning or end, right? Now, another general safety tip is don't shop in public, don't online shop in public, is what that should say. You don't want people to get your card information by looking over your shoulder, right? But also you want to avoid shopping on public Wi-Fi networks because those are vulnerable to attack and for people, getting into and posing as public Wi-Fi networks and stealing your information. So definitely be careful being on public Wi-Fi networks in general, and definitely do not shop over public Wi-Fi networks. If you are in public and you have to just buy something right away, maybe you forgot to order something and you need to do it and you don't have time to get home to do it, you can do it. Make sure though, if you're using your cell phone, again, don't use a public Wi-Fi network. Using your cellular data plan is fine, that it will be safer. So use your cellular data plan, don't use a public Wi-Fi network, and if you can, do it somewhere a little bit private so you're not at risk of people looking over or stealing your credit card information. Now, based on a lot of the things we went over at the beginning, you should be okay on any of the sites that you're on if you're following those steps. But also, if you do end up finding yourself potentially on a harmful site, always think about the information you are sharing. If a website is asking you too much information, that's something to think twice about. A purchase shouldn't require you to give information like your birth date or social security number. So they really only need, maybe your zip code, your card number, and its expiration date for the most part, maybe that 3-digit code on the back. But usually they don't require much more. So if more information is being asked of you, that is something to be concerned about. And lastly, always just check your statements regularly if you're doing online shopping, or really any shopping for that matter. Credit card information and debit card information gets stolen all the time, whether you're shopping online or not online. So just as a general practice, make sure you're checking your statements, making sure there's not any suspicious behavior on them. And if there is, contacting your financial institution as soon as possible to get it dealt with so you can minimize any damage. All right, thank you for listening and happy shopping. If you have any questions about this topic, you can always call us at Cyber Seniors toll free at 844-217-3057 or visit us online at www.cyberseniors.org. And once again, this session was proudly sponsored by Breezeline, and you can visit them online at www.breezeline.com.